Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hey, Arlemi, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Ian. Doing good. Doing good. What about you?
Doing all right. A little tired, just back from a conference trip, but doing well. Doing well.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Let's see. I'm just checking that we are live everywhere. We seem to be live everywhere, which is nice.
Right.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another. I feel like I've not been here in so long. I don't know when's the last live stream.
It's been a minute since we've had you on the stream for sure.
Yeah. But feels good to be here. Welcome to another Postman live stream. So I'm Arlemi. I'm a developer advocate lead at Postman, and I'm currently based in between France and the UK. Currently in France, so you may hear some birds chirping at the back. If it's too loud, just let me know and we can reduce the noise. I'm here
great.
with Ian. Ian, who are you? What do you do? Where are
Hey,
you?
everyone. I'm a senior developer advocate. Let's see. I'm based in Colorado in the United States.
Thanks.
No birds chirping in my backyard right now. So.
I mean, maybe they are, but
I mean, maybe they are. Yeah, we might see my dog at some point. That'd be the only animal that we show. So.
I see tons of people joining from LinkedIn, which is great.
Yeah.
So let's talk straight away about what we're going to do today. We've put a pretty not clickbait because we're actually going to do a title, but we're going to use ChatGPT and Bard, ask them both to generate some code for us, some codes for creating an API. So I'm actually going to talk with ChatGPT. Ian is going to talk to Bard. And we'll just do some comparisons, see what comes out, how it works, and that's pretty much what we're going to do. Obviously, as we go, we'll get some. If you have any questions in the chat, or if you want us to try anything, if you have like suggestions of prompts that we could do, let us know. We're always happy to try some stuff. But quickly, in hopefully two small minutes, I'm going to talk about what's happening in the Postman world, and then we'll jump into the meat of the live stream. Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yep, sounds good. So, what have we missed lately, Arlemi?
Maybe you've missed it because you were traveling to conferences. So let me put you up to speed. Let me move our faces to the bottom so there's more space. So, talking about AI, so that's the topic of today's live stream. AI is also coming to Postman. So it was already there. If anyone here has used Postman Flows, which is our low-code, no-code way to create workflows in Postman, there was already a way to use natural language to tell what test or what handling of the data to do. So you could just type in, get that part of the response, and turn it into a table, and it would generate the code for that. We now have Postbot, which is what we're going to call the entirety of AI capabilities in Postman that's coming. So Postman's new AI assistant, and the first way we're introducing it is in the tests. So if you're writing tests for your collections, up to now you could use chai.js, which is a JavaScript library. So you could write some tests, and you kind of had to know the library or how to write these tests. And now we have this little natural language processing window where you can type in, so typically here, add tests to this request, and then this generates the test for you. Obviously, it's going to use whatever you have as a response in the response of the request to generate these, and hopefully it should make your life easier. So yeah, that's Postbot. This is the very, I guess, the not the premise, because again, we had it in Postman flows of AI in Postman, but in these blog posts that I'm going to actually post in the chat and share in the private chat so that Ian can also share it on LinkedIn. We have more coming. So the this is the start. The things that you'll be able to write you having to write it, you'll be able to generate it using this type of tool. So Postbot, build an entire test suite, summarize test data reports, debug API calls for you, so you don't have to go and investigate what's not working. This will prompt you with whatever is happening. But also, let's say you're in Postman and you want to build a workflow that uses an SMS endpoint. This will be able to surface what type of API calls from which API you may be interested in. So that's Postbot. Did you know about that, Ian?
I did know about Postbot, and I actually had some questions about it at the conference I was at, because the conference I was at was all about testing, and
Nice.
some folks were asking about Postbot. And the biggest thing that we hear about programming and AI and all these generative AIs is my job at risk? Am I going to be out of a job? Is AI going to take over my job? And I think that it's going to be useful for the foreseeable future. It'll be useful for inspiration, but it's always going to need some amount of human interaction and human sort of discernment over, is this actually doing what I want it to do? Like, is this actually going to be testing things properly the way that we expect it to be testing? So I don't think we have anything too much to worry about yet. I mean, some AI stuff that Arlemi and I were looking at earlier today around like image, generation and stuff like that is incredible and is very impressive. And certainly the generative AI is really useful when it comes to writing code and writing things like tests and things like that. But I think there's always going to be some need for human interaction.
It's very much, actually, on my end, I feel like it's supporting you doing your job rather than replacing you. We have Manish in the chat who's saying, hello, we are in the new era. It kind of feels this way when you see some of the stuff. And I also see that we have people joining from all around the world, Togo,
it's great,
and Nigeria. And we've got some usuals like Willie, who's here as well. It's good to see you all.
Yep.
So to finish on Postbot, obviously, we can't just give that away to everyone for free. It's going to be on, I think, basic and professional plan at the start, and it's currently on a wait list. So you can join that, and then you get, as we release these features, you'll get access to all of them. So that's pretty much it. There's two quick things that I'm going to talk about. The first one is the release notes. That's where we talk about everything that's new and not just what we talk on stream. So if you are interested in learning more about what's out in the Postman world, I'll link that page as well. And then the last one, which I'm going to spend just 30 seconds on because we're actually going to see it during the live stream, is the Postman VSCode extension. And seeing like the reactions from everyone when we announced that, I think a lot of people are going to get pretty excited about this. TLDR, you can now send API requests and test them directly from VSCode. And there's a lot more coming down the line. So think about history. Actually, history is there, but collections, environments, and this type of stuff. So that's also coming. Cool. I think you haven't used the VS Code extension yet because you mentioned you were going to install it.
I have not. I wanted to install it and have you walk me through it and show me the ropes while we're here.
Cool. Let's okay. So let me remove my screen for a second, and So I think maybe a few people joined us while we were going through this. A quick reminder what we're going to do today. Ian is going to be our Bard expert. I'm going to be the ChatGPT expert, and we're going to chat to each of them, ask them to write some code, create some API endpoints for us, and then we'll call these API endpoints, see if it works the way it's expected. I don't know if we'll get into like comparing performance, because at the end of the day, it's just going to be localhost. So right. I think you'll probably win at this one because your machine is probably more powerful. But yeah, we'll just see how they both behave. And also like the way they explain things, right? Are they good teacher rather than just copy paste that code in your thing? Cool. I'm just checking if there's any questions before I get started. Don't think there's anything. So
no, I haven't seen anything yet.
Do you want to start? Should I start? How do you want to go about this?
Well, let's have a quick conversation about like what kind of API do we want to build. So our goal here is that we wanted these generative AIs to help us build an API. So we need some kind of theme. So if chat wants to help us out, We've been debating, like, do we do like a library? Do we do an ice cream shop? Do we do jokes? Do we do weather data? Basically, we want to tell our respective generative AIs to build us an API, and I think we're going to use Node and Express today. And that way we can kind of compare the code a little bit better, like kind of apples to apples, so to say. And we're going to do like one get endpoint where we get like one thing, a get endpoint where we get a list of things, and then maybe a post endpoint, and we'll just store everything into SQLite or something like that. So if anyone in chat has some ideas that they want to help us out with, as a about what kind of API we should build, we need to kind of standardize on a prompt here. So Arlemi and I are going to work on a prompt, and that way we can share that prompt, and we can basically ask both of the generative AIs the exact same prompt to kind of get a sense of the quality of the response that we're getting back, both from ChatGPT and Google Bard.
Okay, so I'm taking notes at the same time. So that's the 3 endpoints we want to have. Storage, likely SQLite, and then let's see. I already see some suggestions in the chat. So really, obviously,
coffee shop sounds like a good idea right now. I could use some coffee.
We have coffee shop. Willie wants us to do a randomizer for lists, which seems we'll see. Maybe as a second thing down the line, we may ask it to do that.
Okay.
And then we have a question about can we review that video somewhere? Yes, that video is on our YouTube channel, so youtube.com/postman. Or I see you're watching from LinkedIn. If you just click on the video, you'll be redirected to a specific URL, and you can just go back to that here later down the line. API.
We do put all these videos on YouTube with chapter notes and all that stuff as well. So it'll live on our YouTube channel for a long time.
We could do a travel API. So these are the 2 ones. I think the first one is probably the best one. It seems like a pretty get all of the types of coffee, or get a specific type of coffee. So then in terms of prompts, and then one more thing I'm going to mention, language is going to be Node.js and Express. Well, I'll keep that page and I'll keep going back to it so we can see where we are with what we plan to do.
All right.
So prompts, first thing is set up the project overall, I guess.
I think so, yeah. Because we'll need to have the generative AI tell us, like, what do we need to install? Like, Arlemi and I both have Node already installed, so we could probably skip that instruction, but we'll need like the package.json file, and just the overall structure of like, how do I get started building a Node API for whatever our theme is going to be.
Let's see. How to create a Node.js app. Yes. As the first prompt.
And then we'll have to get really specific. So the idea with the generative AIs, and I've actually heard this recently because I help a lot of people with like career advice and so on, that some people are saying that knowing how to ask the generative AI good questions is actually going to be a new job skill.
Yeah.
Like, how do we ask it, in fewer retries, where you're not trying the same thing over and over, we're just changing a couple of words. Like, how do you come up with a good prompt in the first place that the generative AI really fully understands everything that we want kind of all in one shot? So I'm thinking if we could come up with a prompt that's maybe several sentences, that we can say, I want to build a Node.js app for a coffee-based API. I want it to use Express, and I want, and then explain the endpoints. Like, we need one post endpoint, an endpoint to get one item, and a get endpoint for several items. And we want to store everything in SQLite or something. So, like, we'll just keep it really lightweight for today, so we don't have to worry about installing databases and all that kind of stuff. So I think if the more we can kind of put that whole prompt together, I think we'll get some better success out of both of these generative AIs.
So just because I was typing what you were, so give me an instruction to create a Node.js app for a coffee API. The app will use Express, and then you mentioned the different endpoints.
Yeah, so we'll need to tell the generative AI we want an endpoint to get a list of coffees, an endpoint to get one specific coffee, an endpoint to save a new coffee, and we want to use SQLite. We might need to tell it before the endpoints that we want to use SQLite.
Yeah, I'll do it in the app will use Express and SQLite.
Okay. Someone's also mentioning in chat, should we be specific and even tell it the response codes that we want?
That's a good question. So what I guess there's two options to get it. Either we do like one big prompt and then it just goes on and gives us everything, or we do like step by step
and have it refine things. Or
have
okay.
it refine.
I think I would like to see what kind of response codes the generative AI comes up with. Like, could we tell it like we want to use industry standard, status code responses and see what it comes up with? Because this is kind of what we want to compare. We want to compare the quality of the code, but also, being API experts, is it making a good API? Like, is it coming up with, what we would expect as good status codes and things like that?
Yeah, there's really in the chat saying they tested using one AI to generate prompts for the other ones. We could ask ChatGPT to generate the prompts for you, but
That's
probably
true, yeah.
but that wouldn't be a good comparison. So let's start with this one.
Okay.
So I'll get started with ChatGPT. I should have it somewhere. Let me share this window. Okay, so I will be removing the chat just so we can see a bit more what we're doing.
Sounds good.
We're still reading everything you're posting, so keep on going, and we'll highlight your messages on the screen when there's stuff that needs to be highlighted. Zoom a bit and paste or prompt. Now is the time when we hope it's not like there's not too many people using ChatGPT or anything like this.
Arlemi, can you also copy that or paste that prompt for me?
I'll give it to you.
Excellent.
So it's giving me some different steps. It understood that it needs to use. Let me go back to this up. So start very much from the start, and that's where we are. We don't even have a directory or anything. Then we can init our project with npm init. So it knows it's an Node.js project. Installing the dependencies, so Express and SQLite, and then that's when we go into the details. Is this live ChatGPT answering that fast? So this is live, but I think we might be on a plus thing. So it's it's default one. So yeah, it's really asking if this is the original one that's generating that fast. And then we have a quick question from Manoj. Says, can you please help guide me to automation API testing, generate each API response and AI to generate report? So for automation API testing, if you search for Postman Intergalactic on Google, we actually have a webinar for that next week. So I would ask you to join this one and you'll learn a lot more. And then for generate each API response and using AI, let's see how we can fit that in this live stream. So let's go ahead, and instead of jumping back and forth with my screen sharing, I'm just going to share the entire screen. It's going to be easier. So thank you. Let's do VSCode. I'll do it's going to be live stream. I want to keep this. Okay, so I've got my folder. If we go back to what it says, I'm in the project directory. I'm going to run npm init, so terminal. now I have my package.json. So Ian and I have used Node.js in the past, so we know what's a package.json, and we may go and presume that you all know some stuff, which is wrong. So if there's anything you don't understand, just let us know, and we can go back and talk in more details. So the package.json describes your application. So you have the name, the version, what's the entry point, and then just license, etc. So I guess that's one thing. ChatGPT didn't tell me what it was or what he was doing.
Yeah.
He just told me to run that command. Maybe there was this thing. I guess it's still the case now, right? Like there was always this never run code that you copy paste from the internet.
Right. That's right.
Which is if we're going to do just that today. So don't reproduce at home. Don't do it at home. It's not good. Okay, so then we install the dependencies, Express and SQLite. Gonna go.
I like that ChatGPT actually has like a copy to clipboard kind of thing right on the interface. That's pretty nice.
You didn't even use it.
And with most node based projects, this is going to take a minute to go through and find all those dependencies and so on.
So I've got them, and you can see they're added as dependencies into package.json as well. Set up the project structure. Create a file name, app.js, and then create a directory. And in that directory, I want a coffees.tv. So let's see. That might be a bit small. I think that should be fine. So first one is new file, that's app.js. That's going to be the main entry point. Not sure if that's going to work, because in here, we have this main that is index.js.
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to follow.
We'll see whether it tells you to change that later. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we want a db directory, and then in this, we want coffees.db. So that's going to be our SQLite database file. So now open the app.js. I'm going to go back full screen and paste this blindly, as again, shouldn't be doing. So we have, it defines a couple variables, one for like requiring the different modules that we've installed, initializing Express and creating a new SQLite database in the directory that we've created it. So that's good. We have really saying maybe a ChatGPT plugin for Postman soon, so it can directly input code. Maybe. I mean, who knows? Okay. Then we go straight into the whole defining the API endpoints. So a bit more code.
So let's have a look at what it had there. So I see the three endpoints. So get all the coffees.
Put it here, and then hopefully we can see more. So yeah.
Yep. Get all the coffees. Get one coffee by ID. Okay.
Okay. And then we have the SQL commands. And so I don't remember who was asking about adding the error codes, but it looks like it already included some of them, which is pretty impressive. So for get the list of coffees, we only have the error message, but not the 404. But
we do for the get the single endpoint there in the middle. But what we don't explicitly see here is what status code is it going to return if it succeeds?
Yeah.
Like if this post operation succeeds, is it going to give us back a 201? This could end up sort of defaulting on, what is the framework going to do? But we did kind of want our AI to be a little more specific about that. But based on what we had in our prompt, I think that this is a pretty good start so far.
Yeah, we'd have to see what a row contains as well. And this one has a 400. Name and description are required. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Cool. So I think that was about it, and then it was just running the server. Step 5, start the server. Add the following code at the end. So that's where we define the port the server is going to run on.
Yeah, Joel brings up a fantastic point. What about SQL injection with those endpoints?
That's probably,
if Arlemi, if you go back to your code for a moment, on line 37, we see it using the question marks, and those are what we call binding parameters. And most frameworks are going to do a pretty good job of watching out for SQL injection using those binding parameters. So should be relatively safe here. I mean, we would certainly want to like double check that name actually comes in and looks like a string, and the description comes in and looks like a string. You know, this is inspiration. This isn't like final code. Like as developers, we need to understand these things. Like, you know, do we go back? Do we refine the prompt saying make sure that this API is extremely secure? You know, and tell it how we want to harden the API a little bit. But for a first pass, I think this is a pretty good start. So
yeah, we can blame ourselves for not doing a prompt that's like defined enough or like detailed enough.
Yeah.
So we have this, and then save the app.js file. Okay. So I'm going to save this, open a terminal, go to the project directory, and run node.
I love that it reminds you to save your code. That's great.
That is great. Yeah. So let's do terminal. I should already be in the correct directory, so that's correct. And so that's where it actually fixes the thing that I had said before, which it was not going to work. Yeah, let's see what is really saved.
Maybe I was too fast in sacking my API programmer. I have a very awkward call now.
Yep. So yeah, like if you just say, I think it's node start or just node, it goes and looks into your package.json for the starting point. Yep. But you can also specify the one here, like saying app.js. So then it's actually going to run this one. So let's see what happens if we do this. Okay.
Well, it looks like it made the database file.
Oh, good point. Yeah, we have a database file. It should be empty. Yep. Oh no, actually no, I created that.
Well, you won't. Oh, you created a blank file?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Normally you don't have to create that. So
just follow the instructions.
Oh, okay.
You know?
All right. Fair.
And now that's where we go into this little thing at the bottom left, which is Postman in VSCode. So we should have, I'm assuming it's running on 127.0.0.1 or localhost. So I'm going to create a new request. So you have the options when you create a request in VSCode for HTTP, WebSocket, or gRPC already. This would be HTTP. So I'm going to go here, say localhost, running on 3000. And then let's see, what are the endpoints looking like? So if I do the get all coffees, that should be empty. So let's see what happens here. /.
No such table. Oh, so it made the database, but it didn't make the database table for us. So we lost out on, you know, this thing actually needs to, you know, do the idea of like a database migration of creating the table with these fields. Like, you know, we're taking in a name and a description. We know we need an ID field.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it didn't tell us how to make that. There's no code in here to actually go create that database.
Let's see if maybe I missed something. You know, there's always the human create a file name. No, okay, didn't
tell us how to do it. So the nice thing about ChatGPT is it's contextual. So we can say like, how do I make that database, or how do I create the table in that database? And it's going to know what database we mean. So Arlemi could probably follow up with another prompt saying, I need instructions on how to build the table for that database or something like that.
The database is missing table called coffee. How do I create it? Let's see. I'm trying to be very nice with the AI. You know, you never know. Oh, very nice.
Apologies for the oversight. That's great. To create the coffees table, here's what you need. And now it's giving us the actual JavaScript that we need for this. So. And it even tells you, like, go look for this line of code and then add this right after it. So this is doing a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, it's a good point you made about like the contextual thing. So we want that line, which is right here. And then we want to paste that right after.
And I like the SQL in there. It's like create table if not exists. So every time we restart this, it's not going to like try to build it every time. It's going to check to see whether the table's already there.
And
looks
then
like it's got an auto increment on the ID, which is exactly what we want.
So for some reason, oh no, save. Okay, good, save. Open a terminal, node app.js.
So we'll have to restart your server to go create that. Yeah.
So I'll do that. Node app.js. Aha. So now we have a coffee table created successfully. Great success. Right. And if I run this again, okay, I have an empty table.
Empty table. So that's good.
That's good.
All right.
Cool.
That's a good start.
Let me do a quick check on the chat. Yeah, this is quite cool. You need to be precise with DB creation. Yeah, I'm actually impressed that I knew it was contextual, but I don't use it as much. And I think I'm impressed with the apologies for the oversight.
Right. At least it's polite about it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, my bad. Here's the other instruction you needed.
So question from Conrad, how does the new VS Code add-on works with open API files? It doesn't yet. For now, it's only requests. But, keep an eye out, install it,
we'll get there.
Keep updating it, and eventually you have your answer. Someone says no sound on Twitch, but I can't really reply to that if they have no sound. So hopefully they'll figure it out.
So I'm listening to Twitch and the audio is coming through, so it's something on their side.
Okay, so we've got that. Let me try and create. I'll try to create something. So I'm going to do a post.
Well, let's check those error conditions. Let's try a post without sending any data and make sure we're getting the error conditions and the error codes and stuff like that.
Post coffees. So I'm going to put nothing in the params. I'm going to close a few things. Okay. Aha. Internal error. Cannot destructure property body as it is undefined. Okay. So getting an internal error. That's fine.
And it's interesting that it actually came back as HTML and not what we would typically expect to come back from an API where we would expect some sort of JSON error response. So, yeah,
very true. Yeah, so it's just piping back the error from there. Actually, let's see. Maybe I can ask ChatGPT, what should a typical body look like to create a coffee? It's not very English what I wrote, so let's see how it.
Yeah.
Okay.
While it's coming up with that, we had a really good suggestion here in chat from Ankit saying we should prompt to build test cases and create some dummy data for the API as well. It's a great idea.
Yeah. Who wants to come up with that prompt in the chat, and then we'll copy paste it, and that's ChatGPT.
Yeah, help us out with that in chat.
Yeah, let's keep it on the screen so you can know what we're asking you to do. In the meantime, a typical request body to create a coffee would be a JSON object. Only two required fields, name and description. Make sure to include both the name and the description. What if I don't want to, though? Let's see. So we want row. For those of you who are familiar with Postman, the VS Code extension shouldn't be too different. It's pretty much the same. So you pick the row type, and then you say JSON for the formatting. So we've got an espresso, which is a concentrated coffee beverage brewed. Too long, didn't read, but let's send this. Aha.
Oh, still got an error. 500 error. Okay.
So now I'm wondering if it's running, if I didn't kill it.
Well, if it wasn't running, we wouldn't get a response at all. So
true.
The fact that we're getting a 500 means that we're getting some kind of error here. I can't destructure the property of request.body.
As it is undefined.
So can we console log request after line 47, see what actually is coming in on that request, on that post?
You want us to debug?
I mean,
When
we
I
could
can
get
just-
the AI to help us debug.
Yeah. Let's see. So I'm just going to double check that I'm doing the right thing here. Yes, a post to coffees. I've got the correct body. And so let's complain when calling the create coffee endpoint. The node app gives this error. How to fix it? Is that a good prompt?
Yeah, it's a good start.
Let's see.
Occurs when the request body is not being parsed correctly. Okay.
Ah.
So we need some middleware for parsing the request. All right.
Very cool. So we need open app.js, add the following line of code before defining the API endpoint. So before the app.get, let's go to app.js. Before the first app.get, which is here, we paste app.use express JSON. So this line instructs Express to pass incoming request body as JSON, and then we need to restart it. So let's do it again. Kill this, restart, and then try to create one. Haha.
Hey, there we go.
Turned it okay. Perfect. And it's created. So now if I do a get and nobody, I should be getting one espresso.
There's
Cool.
one thing we get back.
That was easy. Let's see, because I think we had a few people giving prompts in the chat. So Shemutai said create test data for 30 entries. Okay, we can try that.
And populate it using the API instead of database insertions. That'd be a good one.
Let's try that. But that would be 30 different. Oh, would the
Well, the post operation will only take one at a time.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was wondering.
We'd have to do 30 post operations, so that might be a bit much.
So let's do create test data for 30 entries. Let me write that in here. Create test data for 30 entries and add it to the DB. Not using the API because I don't want to have to do 30 calls. Okay, so it's going to create a script that generates test data. Oh, that's
interesting. Very generic, like coffee 1, description 1, coffee 2, description 2. All right.
Let's see. To create test data for 30 entries and edit test data. Okay, so
the problem with this instruction, this code though, is every time you restart your server, you're going to inject another 30 coffees.
True.
So this is where you would want to do like a proper migration of like only run this migration one time, put it in a separate migration file so that you're not doing it every time the app starts up.
So they actually talk about that later on.
It's uncommented. Oh, okay, I gotcha. All right.
Oh,
but now as a programmer, you've got this code hanging out there. It's not the best practice. Not the best practice. It'll work, but and it tells you at the bottom, remember to comment it out once it runs. It tells you to remember to comment it out.
Let's see. Do we want to go with just coffee 1, coffee 2?
Okay, let's try it.
Yeah,
for the sake of time, I think it'd be good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then we swap to yours.
Sure.
I do want to see how Bard handles it as well. So open the app.js, add the following code after the const db. So, well, I guess we need the table to be created first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna complain. Save the file and comment it. And then run it. So, and comment that. Terminal. Too many terminals. What I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to, instead of doing node, I'm going to do nodeman. which just restarts whenever I make a change, so I don't have to like
Okay.
do that. So it should have created it. And then let's see, get all the coffees. Yeah, that's a much longer. Nice, cool. That was,
and they're out of order too, which is interesting.
Oh, you're right. And then, oh yeah.
Well, I mean the ID values are in order, but
but
if
not
you look at the names are out of order. So yeah, this is the asynchronous aspect of like you're just trying to inject all these things, and they happen when they happen.
Yeah, that's cool. Yep. So if I command it, it's going to restart the server. That's fine. Cool. So success on my end.
So we got
pretty happy with what. Yeah, pretty happy. With
oh, we didn't test fetching one item.
Right.
So can we do the get endpoint real quick?
Yeah. So let's do get coffees, and it was the ID was the parameter. So if you go here, and if I do ID, so now I have so this again the same way it works in the Postman app. I've added this path variable, so it shows it here, and I can give it a value. So I'm going to go and query number 17, which actually is coffee 20 for some reason. Let's do 17.
And there's coffee 20. Awesome.
Look at that. Very nice.
All right.
Cool. Let me stop sharing.
All right. So that was pretty good success with ChatGPT.
Yeah. Pretty happy with that.
Let's see how Google Bard does over here. So here's the Bard interface, and this is the initial prompt that I got from Arlemi of go build this out. We'll see what Bard comes up with here. Oh, it's thinking about it a lot longer than ChatGPT. ChatGPT was like right on there with
but it gives you everything at once. When ChatGPT actually generates like 9 by 9.
It makes it look like someone's actually typing it out, but
yeah.
All right, so here are the instructions. It's kind of recapping what it was that we wanted to do. So create a project directory. It's telling me even like make a folder for it. Install your dependencies.
Okay.
So similar. What's interesting is it didn't give us the npm init.
You're right. Yeah.
It just said is it coming to do this later? And do npm. I don't know. I'm gonna follow the instructions as is and see what we get here. Let me go over to my VS Code. Where's my VS Code?
So we have Chemutai again saying, sorry if I butcher your name, which I probably do. We can test delete and put for updating requests. We'll see based on time. The reason we wanted to just keep it to 3 endpoints was just because we didn't know if we would have the time. But let's see if we get a chance to do that.
Yeah. So
we're not seeing your VS Code, by the way.
Yeah, I know. So I'm on a really, really big screen, so I'm gonna have to go back and forth between some windows here as I do this. But yeah, if I just try the npm install that it told me to do, I get an error, of course, because I didn't do that npm init. So strike one against Google Bard.
No, it's complaining that you do not have npm.
I'm on. Yeah. That's because I'm on PowerShell. It should have gone over to my Linux one. That's why it didn't work.
Okay,
right, let's try this again. All right, so let's try that first one. So npm. Oh, it's actually trying to do something right away. I mean, it installs node modules, but there's no package.json to do anything with.
Yeah, I'm wondering how it's gonna start the thing. That's what MKD is saying in the chat. I guess Bard missed.
It did. It actually made. Well, it made a package.json, but there's nothing in it about like how to start it or anything like that. So
just the dependencies,
yeah. So we'll try the npm init, and that seemed to fill everything else in.
Okay. That works.
Did it keep it? Yeah, it kept the dependencies in there. So all right. So strike one on Bard. Yeah, this is going to be a little tricky on the sharing the different windows here.
I'm trying to think. Can you open a browser in VS Code?
I was trying to think of doing it the other way around. Like GitHub allows you to do the VS Code in a browser.
Yeah.
I would have to push that to a repo real quick, but that's not a big deal. but I wouldn't be able to run it on
Yeah,
GitHub.
no,
So
that's fine. We can,
um,
we can trust what you prompt to
yeah.
Bard.
So
We'll
it
be
said to
probably
create an
there.
app.js, and it's giving me some instructions. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste all of that in directly. Um, it says create an app.js in the project directory, and it gives you a code snippet. There is a copy to clipboard thing on there as well, which is pretty nice. So let's go in. We'll add an app.js, and this is the code that it told me to put in here.
60. So
and,
it gave you
it's
everything at
and
once.
it's a lot more. Yeah. So
Yeah.
create a table, go insert some stuff. So it's even giving us some sample code or some
Yeah.
sample copies right off the bat.
Some points on ChatGPT, it didn't forget to create the table and
But
actually
the problem is it hasn't, like, I haven't looked through all the instructions yet, but every time we restart this, it's going to try to create this table every single time because it doesn't have the if not exists thing here. So if not exists, we have to make sure that we include that. Otherwise, it's going to give us an error every time it starts up saying this thing already exists. And it's also going to duplicate these entries every time I restart my code. But aside from that, we're getting all of our coffees. We're just doing a straight select. There's no error handling in here at all. It's taking in a request object, but we're not doing anything with it. Getting a single coffee, it's looking for that ID. It's using binding parameters, so it's going to be reasonably safe. But again, there's no error condition here about
not at all.
404 or anything like that. Getting all coffees, it's actually, in this case, it actually gave us an idea of, like, you should also have a price on here. So it's fetching all of that out of our body, and then out of our request, and then we're trying to insert that into the table. And then it's actually giving us the code to say, like, start up on port 3000. So
on the, since you can see the Bard side, is it actually telling you what the code is doing, or is it really just giving you that huge chunk of code?
it's just a big chunk of code. And then, like, step 4, it says run the server. And it'll say it'll start on port 3000. You can test the API by using a tool like Postman. It tells us that in Google Bard.
That
You
is
can
good.
use it with a tool like Postman.
That is
For
cool.
example, to get a list of coffees, here's the get endpoint. This will return a JSON object with a list of coffees. To get a single one, this is what you do. I'm just going through to see whether it tells us to comment it out, and it doesn't. It doesn't tell us, like, go comment out this code, like, once you run it the first time and that table's already built and those things are already injected. So we're going to end up with duplicate entries every time I run this code. So I think that there's some expectation. So let's follow up on the prompt with that one, because I think we can definitely refine this stuff a little bit more here. So we'll say, like, every time I start the app, I get more and more entries in my database. How do I stop that? And let's see if it's smart enough contextually to go, oh yeah, go comment out these lines of code. So there are a few things you can do to stop the app. Check the code for infinite loops. Close the database connection when you're done. If you're still having trouble, try using a tool like npm debug.
It's not aware of what it's
delete old. Yeah. So it's lost the context of it.
It's either lost the context or does not realize that what it wrote is going to create that case, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's also asking for, like, thumbs up, thumbs down. There's an expert response button on here, and you can also, like, go over to Google. But yeah, this is the copy code, kind of thing that I was talking about earlier.
Actually, there's one thing that Bard has that ChatGPT doesn't. On the right, top right there, you see the view other drafts. No, right below that.
Oh, view other drafts. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you can have, like, different. It always generates different answers, and then you get to, like, see the different ones.
Okay, interesting.
It doesn't seem like it changes the gist of it, but it changes the way it's written.
Right. So every time I start this Node.js application,
with your code,
with your code,
we have a Sensenian saying Bard's code needs a little bit more refinement. Yeah, I also feel like, compared to the one we had from ChatGPT, which has, like, by default the API response codes, etc. Could use a bit of refinement.
All right, so I refined that a little bit, and it's coming up with it's thinking about that a little bit longer here. You are correct. The coffee examples are being created over and over because the insert into coffee, etc., is not being wrapped in a transaction. Well, that's not true. The transaction is like if the transaction fails, then it rolls things back. This will ensure that the coffee is either created successfully or not created at all. But the problem is that it is being created. It's just being created over and over and over. So it's not understanding the prompt that I gave it. In this case, though, it's actually catching exceptions and rolling back the transaction. But
it's much more advanced, and you get actually like error codes as well. Because of your try catch. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
well, let's
I mean,
let's run it. Let's run it and see if you can try it out. Also, you need to install Postman.
I did get that installed.
Oh, okay, cool.
All right, so we'll see if we can get that up and running. So we know that we're gonna have to like modify this stuff. So I'll run it the first time. So so we can do npm start. No, or npm run. Sorry.
So we have Enkit in the chat saying it has lost context.
Yeah,
and intent awareness. Yeah, it has lost.
Yeah.
It did know. It still knows what the app is doing and what you're talking about, like coffees. But I think it's just not that Generative is doing. So it lost some. And then we have Sesenian. I'm so sorry for how I pronounce people's names. Is Bard counting on uniqueness being violated? Yeah, I think that long answer felt a bit like this.
The other thing that I like about ChatGPT is it said, go put your database in a separate folder, where this one didn't. And it's also giving me an error saying SQLite 3 is not a constructor. So it's the code is not working. So
what could it? So let me compare with what I have from my end, and then we can see. I have const app express, const db new SQL 3. So create a new database. So yours creates a new database collection. Mine is a different command for creating the database connection for some reason. I don't know if that really matters, but you can try. So it's new SQLite 3 dot database with a capital D. Yeah, and then same in there. So that that should be the path of where you store your DB. But you don't have that file with it, so I'm not sure.
Well, it did create it. So no such table coffees.
Okay.
And so it looks like it was trying to run the table creation and then doing the inserts, but the inserts actually failed, saying that the table didn't exist.
Is it because one of them is all uppercase and the other one is lowercase? I don't remember.
No, the table name is both lowercase. Yep. Okay, so we know that this is going to be problematic because it's going to try and create that table every time. So I'm going to add the if not exists in here. Then we'll try and run this again and see whether it'll do that insert for us. Okay, so the insert worked that time. So there's a timing issue between trying to create the table and then immediately trying the DB run. So again, this is where it's like it's putting things into like asynchronous stacks and trying to run them. And you never really know what order they're coming in. So this is where, someone mentioned in chat, like, should we be using promises? Should we be using like awaits? Like go wait for this to finish before moving on to the next step.
Yeah, that's what Ankit is saying now. He's the async issue creation was in progress. And then he had a question, which is, what if we ask it to generate the same following abstraction and a little bit more modularity? Let me try and understand the question first. Same following. Right. Oh, okay. So the same if you at the back, but more.
All right, so let me go log in with Postman. So it needs an auth token. So I'm going to go open that in a browser. I'm going to go log in on Postman real quick. And then back to VS Code. Do I allow the extension to open this URI? Yes. And it got that auth token. All right, so we haven't sent any requests yet. All right, so we'll just start with a new HTTP request. And we're going to go to localhost 3000 / coffees. Let's see.
No worries, and keep the questions coming.
All right. So we did get a payload of data back. It gave us back a single JSON object, where I would have expected this to come back with an array of those 3 things. So our get all endpoint did not work. So Google Bard has also failed us on fetching all coffees.
I feel like because we started with ChatGPT, it gives us expectations for Bard.
Maybe.
We may have like set our expectation too high, and now.
Well, but there's also an expectation that this is Google, right? You would expect that Google would have pretty good training data as well. So something in our get all request did not work at all. So select all from coffees. It makes me wonder whether this insert statement actually worked correctly.
I'll
try and uncomment it and try and run it again and see.
It probably did in the first. I don't remember when you commented it out. Well, hey, I guess let's run the get again.
Let's try it again. No, we still get nothing.
What if you look into the file, the coffees.db file?
I mean, try and open it anyway.
Well,
I mean, there's a lot of null data in there, but I'm not seeing the strings of the other stuff. So we can see that the coffees table is in there.
Yeah.
But a lot of null data. Oh no, there it is, and it's in there multiple times.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we're not fetching it back. So there's something about how we're fetching this from coffees.
But you have nothing in the terminal, so it's not an error.
Right. So we know that they're being created in the database. We can kind of see that.
Yeah.
But trying to fetch all of them is definitely not working for us here.
Let me see. Trying to compare, because I know all. Yeah, we had that issue that we didn't have the JSON parser defined.
Well, that was for the request. That was for trying to do a post. But getting all coffees, that worked for us on the ChatGPT version. But yeah, Google Bard is not being very friendly for us so far. Let me try and fetch like a single one here, and let's see.
I'll try to maybe create one and see, maybe it stores it. Yeah.
Right. So we'll try a post, and then we'll set it to raw. We'll do JSON. Now this one we need a name, a description, and a price. So we're gonna a name, a type, and a price. Okay, so we'll have name, and we'll call it Ian's favorite blend, and we will have a type, and I like a blonde roast, and we'll say the price is I'll just say it's $5. All right, we'll try and send that over to our post, and we get a 500 error
that
code.
Looks very similar to what we had.
Okay.
Returns HTML. Let's see what's
so can't read properties of undefined, reading name. So it's a little bit different error than what you were seeing.
Yeah.
If we go back over here, just so I can pull this terminal up, see a little bit more. So I'm wondering whether Bard is going to be able to resolve this for us. So can't read properties of undefined. Reading name. Okay.
So my prompt was, when calling that API endpoint, I'm getting this error.
Okay. Well, let's go see what Bard can do for us here. If Bard is even going to be, because again, we've kind of lost the context of what we were trying to do. So when I try to call that API code to create a coffee, I get the following error. How do I fix this? So can't read properties means the name property of the request object is undefined. This can happen if it doesn't contain a name property. Fix this, you can check the etc. And then it's giving us a code sample to check if the name property is present in the response body. So it's giving us a little more code to add for what we need, but it's not really telling us like this is what you need to do.
It feels generic, right? It feels like a Stack Overflow answer, which is like just
if the name property is present, then you can access it safely. Here's the complete code for the create new coffee function. So it looks like it built us all new code for this. So let's, I'm just going to go add that over to my Node.js here.
Oh, did you miss the name?
Well, here's the thing. So the code that came back here said, go put all of this in a function, make it an asynchronous function, call it create new coffee. But when we come back up here and we look at the code that it told us to use in the first place, the app.post isn't in a separate function. And so it's mismatching what it told us to write and what it's now telling us to go do. If I go make that function, then it's still not connecting the post operation to going and calling that function. So there's still going to be a major disconnect here where Bard has completely lost the context of what we had it starting out to do and like where we're getting stuck with the problem right now.
Yes,
so Bard's definitely falling short here.
Can you scroll up on this code, the main one, and do you have like the app.use express.json in there? No, okay, so I feel like that maybe what's missing, because you are definitely sending the name in your request body, but it's not reading it, right? So it's not, and I think that kind of goes along what Ankit is saying in the chat. It didn't get that the middleware is missing. So if you go back to your code, and before the first endpoint, the first app.get, you add this. So let me copy paste it to you in the private chat.
App.use express.json. Yep. All right, so let me copy that and put that right after here.
Let's see. So when I did it, it had to be right before the first endpoint, the first app.get, but I'm assuming it doesn't really matter. Just needs to be after app is defined.
Okay. Let's try and run this again then. All right, so let's start it up okay. Go ahead and send our post operation.
Yeah, we get read okay.
We got a 200, but we also got HTML back saying can't read properties of undefined. So this is another mismatch. It's giving us a successful status code with an error. And what's interesting is within the terminal, we don't see an error happening, but it's definitely giving us error in our HTML, can't read properties of undefined, reading name. So the code is still seeing an error. And so I think what's happened now is in the code is it's changed from being like more of that API style to being more of like a web application that's serving HTML. So yeah, we're definitely running into some problems here.
Yeah, I think we have Ankit summarized it well. It's devs 1, AI 0.
Yeah. and this is why, you know, I was saying at the beginning of the stream, like using AI is great for inspiration, but you can't just copy and paste this stuff. Like you still have to know what you're doing. Like if I didn't know Node and I didn't know Express, I would be completely lost at this point. Like what do I even do at this point? You know, thankfully there are multiple kinds of AIs out there. Like I'm wondering whether going back and refining the initial prompt to Google Bard saying use proper status codes, make sure the middleware is present that I can parse the request body. Like I'm wondering whether it would have given a better block of code for this.
It is experience as well, right? Like the more we're going to use these tools, the better we'll understand like what prompts we need to put in.
And knowing like, oh, you know, instead of trying to create that table over and over again, knowing enough SQL to know, oh, I need to add this code. Like if the table does not already exist, go create that table, and knowing, hey, go comment this stuff out. Otherwise it's going to keep injecting it over and over and over every time you restart. Like this is also why we get into like database migrations, and you should manually run a migration saying go create that table or go insert some test data, things along those lines. But I think the biggest thing that we've seen here, Arlemi, is that Bard kind of forgets the context of what it told you to do when you ask follow-up questions.
Yeah, the context of the code mostly, right? Like it remembers what it said, but it doesn't remember the code. Maybe it does, but yeah, there's definitely something there. So I think that's probably good on this. We have enough to compare the two.
Well, I do
so
want to try and fetch one coffee because
okay.
I want to see whether that actually worked.
Nope. Well, they don't have an ID, right? Like, how do you grab one? By name? Like, what is the code saying?
Oh, that's a good question. No, it should be using an ID, and it's select from coffees where ID equals that request.params.id. Oh, it's looking at params. Well, yeah, which is coming back from the path. But when I try and set that ID value here, we got an error. Oh, it's still doing a post operation. That's why.
Right, yeah.
We got nothing back. So,
okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm going to start sharing my.
Sure.
Let me open the file. Where did we put it? Yeah.
So going back and looking at the insert on my code, we definitely have that auto increment field, and the insert that we were doing here did not include an ID. So it should have been putting those ID values into the table, but trying to fetch based on that ID just completely failed. We didn't get anything back at all.
Okay, there we go. I found it. So one disclaimer that I do want to put, because I feel like you may all think I've played Ian by giving him Bard and taking ChatGPT. We did not try this before, but also I don't have access to Bard where I am at the moment, so that's why I had to go with ChatGPT. It was by default. It was not I didn't send that to him to play him. So we created the API with 3 endpoints: get one, get many, create. We used SQLite to store to different extent of success based on what we did. We used the coffee shop API, and we used that prompt. So give me the instructions to create a Node.js app for a coffee API. The app will use Express, one to get a list of coffees, one to get a single type of coffee, and one to create a new coffee. A few highlights. So you mentioned one already, which is kind of losing the context of what it told you on the Bard side. With ChatGPT seemed to be doing pretty well. In terms of it's hard to talk about the quality of the code, but it felt like ChatGPT had more.
I like the code a lot better. I like the code a lot better from ChatGPT.
Yeah, like the handling the 400, even though it felt a bit random, right? Like some endpoint had 400 and 500, another one has like 200 and like 404. So it did feel a bit random, but yeah, it felt better written, and the instructions just overall were more detailed. In terms of how quick it was to generate the things, I think it's pretty much same. Just one actually writes it line by line. The other one just gives you an entire block. What else? Do you have anything else?
Bard also missed a bunch of instructions like the npm init. It didn't tell us like how to actually get started. Like it had some presumptions, like you already know what to do in some of those cases. I like the ChatGPT was kind of doing like better practice around put your database in a separate folder, where ChatGPT or Bard was putting everything in the single folder. So I think that there was just some better practices overall coming out of the ChatGPT. I think the status codes were okay based on the error handling that we saw coming in. I think the 400 was a little odd. I think the 400 code could have been better on ChatGPT as far as like you were missing the name or the description. A 400 is a pretty generic, like, hey, as a user, you goofed up. I can't do this. Where giving a more specific error message would be helpful, and maybe a more clear status code would be helpful. One thing I didn't check is when you did that post operation, did it come back with a 200 or a 201?
Good question. I should still have it open. Let me check. Oh, wait. So I have it maybe in my history. It doesn't save the response yet. Let me. Yeah, it's fine. I'll just restart the app. Do this. Crashed. Oh, what happened if I do? Oh, it's probably already running. Yeah. Okay. So then let me send this one. 200, not
200. So again, yeah, 201 would be a better practice for, the status code. So again, we're still going to need at this point in time, late May 2023, we still need some human intervention when it comes to AI generated code. But ChatGPT did a really good job putting this together. Bard did okay. Like the structure of the code is there, but it still has an expectation that as a developer, you know how to go in and like sort of fill in around those error conditions and things like that, where ChatGPT was taking care of some of that for us. I think, yeah, like, someone's saying in chat, like maybe be more clear in the steps and things like that. That might have kind of gone back to the other chat thing that we saw, like maybe go back and re-ask with more modularity. I think what they were kind of hinting at there is like if you could structure the prompt a little bit better, like I'm trying to do this, make sure it includes this, also include this, I need instructions on this or that, and put that all in one prompt, whether it would give you better instructions and better code, because it has a better idea of what you're expecting to get from it, as opposed to, I want to build an API. That's a pretty generic prompt. And so that's also why I was saying at the beginning of the session, like one of the things that I'm hearing when I help people with career coaching is that knowing how to structure these prompts for AI could be a very useful job skill in the future, around like knowing exactly what to tell the AI in order to get back something that's going to be a little bit easier to work with. But I think both Arlemi and I learned you can't just copy and paste stuff out of this stuff and expect that it's going to work, that it's going to work properly, that it's exactly what you need. We also don't really know, like, how is this actually generating this AI? Like, one of the things I turned off in my VS Code was GitHub Copilot, because I didn't want that trying to influence things as well, being another AI. Like, where does this code actually come from? Is there something that's literally writing the code, or is it, like, is Google Bard scraping Stack Overflow and it's just giving us that? Like, you don't necessarily know the license of what generated that code, and is that even compatible with the license that your company is using? So I think that there's still some ethics in there as well about just copying and pasting that code. I often tell people, like, use AI as inspiration, but you still have to be the one writing the code. And, if you want to copy a line or two here or there, that's probably okay. But, like, if you copy bulk quantities of code into production level code, you could put your company at legal risk.
Yeah.
So I think you do need to be a little bit careful on that. Not to be
legal,
all soapbox about it, but
No, legal and again security as well. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And I think so. Abib's made a good point, but also one to use the code with caution, which I think is a fair point to raise. Like that's something you want to be aware of. And we have Joshua who's asking a good question, which is what VS Code extension is that? It's the Postman VS Code extension. So let me bring my screen on. Then that will allow us to do the shoutouts as well. So yeah, we've been playing in VS Code. Mostly, but we have this new Postman VS Code extension. So if you go in VS Code, open the extension tab, you can search for Postman. Should be the first one. Just in case you're in doubt, I can actually show you. So if you go to VS Code extension and search for Postman, it will be the one that is marked as verified. So should be pretty easy to figure out that it's the one. And yeah, from now you can just use that for sending, testing APIs directly in Postman. So in terms of shout out, we've obviously this live stream has been full heavy on AI. So I'm going to keep my shout out on that, and I'm going to shout out the team at Postman who's working on Postbot. So that's the AI assistant that's coming to Postman. They're doing a lot of research. They're doing a lot of creation and some pretty advanced stuff that I wish I could be doing if I had more time. But yeah, so shout out to that team for pushing the company forward. Ian, what do you have to shout out?
I'm just going to drop a couple of links here. So dropped a blog link for the VS Code extension and dropping the one right now for Postbot as well, if you want more information about that. The one thing I want to actually shout out is Arlemi. So next week, Arlemi and Joyce are doing our intergalactic session. And it's going to be on testing techniques, and you're not going to want to miss this one. This one is going to be really, really huge around, and it's a free webinar. So, I mean, get into their brains. I'll be there as a moderator, but Joyce and Arlemi are going to be telling you everything and more that you need to know about how to get in and do API testing and get into automation and stuff like that. You don't want to miss this webinar. This is going to be really, really useful. If you use Postman, if you work with APIs, if you're building out APIs, you absolutely want to be at this webinar. So yeah, don't miss that on this. We've got a security related one in June. We're going to have, I think we may have 2 webinars in June. The second one is going to be kind of I think a Q2 recap as well. So yeah, definitely go register for these intergalactics. They're free and they're done on Zoom. So you get a copy of the recording as soon as that's over. And you know, we put all these videos up on YouTube afterwards with chapter notes and things like that. So you can always come back and review those. Aside from that, yeah, I echo Arlemi on shout outs to everyone at Postman that's working on AI, whether it's Postbot or the FQL for the flows. It's really interesting to see how we're starting to use AI a little bit, but even still, we're still seeing, like, you know, just because we're building out Postbot doesn't mean it's going to do 100% of the work for you. You're still going to need your own eyeballs on it, make sure it's doing what you want it to do. But yeah, I think the team's just moving in really great directions on this stuff. So
Good, cool. All right. I think that's the end of this session. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Poonam has, at least. That's good. You know, we'll take that. Thank you all for joining. You mentioned security. I think we have a security maybe live stream next week as well.
That's right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we're streaming every week at this time. Is it going to be you?
Yeah, it's going to be me, kind of hosting a couple of other people. But yeah, we'll
Nice.
be asking them about some security questions around API security and building that in. So
cool. So you can all come back again next week and see Ian's nice slide and great hosting skills. And with that said, we'll see you next week, maybe either in the webinar or in the live stream.
Go follow us on Twitter. We'll send all the
sure.
updates about live streams and intergalactic and so on. So go follow my Twitter handle. Go follow Arlemi as well. He's just at Arlemi on Twitter. He's really easy to find. But yeah, thanks for hanging out today. Thank you for the questions and the follow-up comments and helping us build out that prompt and coming up with ideas about the test cases. I think that was really fantastic. So thank you for the engagement, folks. We'll catch you all next week on the live stream.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone.